One of the most important conversations you're ever going to have with your homeowner is the repair or replace conversation, right? Now, when you're looking at a repair or replace opportunity, your company will set the parameters in terms of age of equipment and the cost of the repair, those types of things that you should consider before you make a replacement recommendation. So whatever that is to your company, that's fine. But once you discover and you find yourself working on a system where it's appropriate recommendation, you got to make sure and have that conversation because that's such a huge part of your responsibility. The truth is we don't want to be doing expensive repairs on old equipment. If the equipment's older, the repair is expensive. In many cases, your homeowner is better off just replacing that old system. But here's what happens. Oftentimes, service technicians don't want to be the bearer of bad news, right? Because think about this. When your homeowner woke up this morning and the air conditioner or the furnace wasn't working, what was the last thing they were thinking about doing, right? Exactly, replacing it. It's the last thing they were thinking about. They didn't wake up and saying, oh, honey, the air conditioner's not working today. Probably we're going to need to spend 10 grand to buy a new one. That's not what they were thinking. They were, honey, the air conditioner's not working. Call the service technician out. It's probably going to cost a few $100. That's what they're thinking. Then you get there and the repair is, let's say, $300, $500, $700, whatever it is, and you know it's a 20-year-old system or a 15-year-old system that maybe they'd be better suited just to go ahead and replace that. What happens in some of those cases, because the service technician does not want to be the bearer of bad news, instead, what do? We go ahead and do the repair even though we know it's not in the homeowner's best interest. We simply don't want to be the person who brings the bad news because we don't want to be perceived as pushy or taking advantage of their situation, right? People are very, very sensitive to that, right? We know that. So we got to be very cool about how we approach that situation. So one of the things that I've learned to do is that when you find yourself in this situation, give yourself a long time horizon or give your homeowner a long time horizon before they even think about replacing. I'll show you what I mean. So let's say you've discovered that it's a good opportunity for a replacement. You have a conversation like this. Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, I'm sure you didn't wake up this morning planning to replace your home comfort system. And they're going to say, well, no, I didn't. Then you say, well, but do you think you might replace it, let's say, over the course of the next 5 years? When you give someone a 5-year time horizon, they're going to say, sure, in 5 years, you probably will. They know it's 15 years old, and they don't feel any pressure because you're talking about something 5 years down the road. The reality is when you take the pressure off like that, in most cases, they'll say, sure, the next 5 years, we're going to do something like that. Then you say this. Well, let's take a look at what that system is going to cost you to keep it 5 more years. Then you just add up the cost of today's repair, $500. Add up the cost of future repairs, which could be another $500. Add up the cost of utility overpayment. Let's say their current utility bill is $3,000 a year, and you can save them 10%, right? That's $300 a year. Over 5 years, that's $1,500. And then, of course, inflation, which could add a few hundred. So if you add up the $1,500, the today's repair, future repair, there's $2,500, and let's say the $300 on inflation, right? The reality is $2,800 is what they're going to put in that old system. Once you get that number, simply say this. So Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, it looks like you're going to spend $2,800 over the next 5 years on this old system. And of course, you're still going to have the old system. So let me ask you this. Do you consider yourself, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner, to be an open-minded person? They're going to say, of course, right? 90% of people consider themselves to be open-minded. How open-minded would you be to getting some expert information on replacing this old system rather than putting that $2,800 into the old system, right? What's the worst that could happen? If they say, nope, I'm not interested, then you do today's repair. But if they do say, well, how much is a new one? That's interest, right? At that point, you refer that to your lead coordinator and you turn that lead over for a sales call. If you're a selling tech, you just go right into your sales presentation right then. The bottom line is you have absolutely nothing to lose simply by asking, right? By having the crucial conversation. Do not overlook a repair and a replacement opportunity because you think you're going to annoy the homeowner. Ask them if they'll replace it in the next 5 years, give them a 5-year time horizon, and I promise you, they're going to feel zero pressure, and they're probably going to say, sure, the next 5 years we might do something like that. Then you simply add up the cost of keeping the old system and ask them if it makes sense, if they're open-minded, to getting some expert information on replacing that old system, right? Very simple process. It's going to make you way more productive and way more effective out in the field.